Finlay, what would you like to say?
Hi there.
Hello, Finlay.
Yes. It's worth saying I'm part of Unite the Union, which is one of the biggest unions in the UK that cover big industrial sectors. I'm in the aerospace sector personally. I'm also a member of the Labour Party.
Okay.
This subject really has frustrated me, both in my union.
For the reasons that I've
Labour.
tried to articulate.
Yeah, well, I think, I can see, I think that the biggest frustration for me is that people's very real concerns around economic difficulties.
People in the sector.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I've been at the Unite the Union annual policy conference and helped kind of contribute to a policy looking at phasing out North Sea oil and gas. Very much written in a way that's saying, well, actually, there's a massive opportunity in transitioning away from fossil fuels. There's probably a massive economic opportunity for the UK, but massively for workers. And it's in all of the downstream industries that will be created. One part of this is extracting fossil fuels from the ground.
Yes.
But the other big part of the equation is our reliance on fossil fuels, for heating our homes, for driving our cars, for flying our aircraft, and actually moving away from fossil fuels and reducing our demand, which will mean that we need to extract less. We're not going anywhere near as fast as we need to go in those areas. They will all make our lives cheaper, but they'll also create lots of jobs for workers.
But this is real chicken and egg territory, isn't it? Because if we're not going fast enough, then we still need gas. And if we still need gas, why on earth would we get it from, I don't know, Qatar or Norway when we could be getting it from our own doorstep?
Exactly, and that's why, and Andy Burnham, I think, said something along those lines of, well, if we're going to use, we will be using fossil fuels for lots more decades. But the reality is we cannot be using fossil fuels, and we need policies from his government, to be put in place much more rapidly to move us away from gas boilers in our homes, from petrol and diesel on our roads, and from jet fuel in aircraft. The government can introduce policies. That fossil fuel companies made extreme excess profits both this year and previous years because of the Ukraine conflict, and we failed to tax those companies, take out those profits, and reinvest them into the industries of the future that will create far more jobs for workers.
But this is the thing, Finlay. I mean, you're perfectly positioned on this because, as you say, your union is a champion of the workers in the sector, and therefore wants this gas field to be open. That's the official position of Unite the Union.
Yep.
And as a Labour Party member, you can speak powerfully about the wisdom and the necessity of windfall taxes and making sure that the people making the most money are giving as much of it as is possible back to the country in which they're making all that money, or the country from which they're making all that money. But we're talking about, I don't know do you know when Jackdaw would come online, roughly?
You're testing me there. I'm not sure exactly.
No, okay, but we're talking
next decade, though, right?
Yeah, and a point at which we will still need gas, for good or for ill, unless you're going to argue that Andy Burnham should be turning up the speed of decoupling from the fossil fuel industry, in which case it is a slightly different conversation from the one that we're having. We will still need gas, and if it's going to come from somewhere, why not come from here?
Well, I think that...
Is that defeatist? Is that defeatist? Should a politician be standing up and saying, this is kind of where Ed Miliband was going, we are heading for net zero. We cannot head towards net zero if we're opening up a new fossil fuel resource. Can we?
Well, it's a collective thing, so it's a collective thing globally, and I think there's part of this is like just the UK doing it, but also we need to be going to, the COP conference at the end of this year, making that case globally to all of the countries around the world.
Yeah, okay.
And so the part of that's leadership. But I do think I think there's a massive failure if you make that argument and then you fail to then look round and then start implementing the policies as quickly as possible to move us away from fossil fuel, which is where the real problem is. Like, we could close all of our, North Sea oil and gas and still use lots of fossil fuel and import it from elsewhere.
Sure.
And actually, we do import a lot of what we use, right? And that's what financially cripples us. But the much more important part is really the demand side. and making sure we rapidly reduce demand as quickly as possible.
And you know, Max, while you were talking, has been in touch. Say, if Burnham was smart, he would have announced this in tandem with a big environmental package to supercharge net zero. So, could that work with you? And also, I think I've slightly misrepresented the facts. The licenses are sold. Wouldn't make us like Norway. It would still be the companies that we're buying gas from other countries from that we'd be buying it from. Even if it came out of the North Sea, if my understanding is correct. So there's a slightly sort of right-wing fetishization about pretending that it's ours and all we need to do is get it out of the ground. It wouldn't work like that, and it wouldn't bring down prices.
No, absolutely not.
That's missing from the debate. I need a better understanding of that, which is not a criticism of you. It's a call to arms for someone else to ring in.
I mean, quite simply, though, just to explain that, you take fossil fuel out of the ground and it goes straight onto the global market.
Yeah.
So you then have to buy it from a global market. So it makes no difference whatsoever if you've extracted it. I suppose you get some tax receipts from the extraction part, but that is exactly where it
goes onto the international market at international prices. So the idea that by getting it out of the sea off Scotland, we'd somehow get ourselves a little loophole or a little hack or a bargain is just for the birds. It's categorically and permanently not true.
Could I make a little point on this point?
You can.
It's
Be
a really
quick,
complicated.
though, he says.
It's a really complicated issue with lots to consider.
Yes.
And talking about this in trade unions and in the media and in politics, we need to inform people and allow people to understand what is a complex topic with complex solutions. One of our proposals is that we use workers' assemblies. So you've heard of citizens' assemblies, which get citizens together and they look at how we decarbonise. The problem is workers feel excluded from that. They feel like often policies are done to them. They are suspicious of large companies, vested interests, and the government as they should be. But also, they are actually failing to make a plan themselves. So something that frustrates me about our union is we're saying no ban without a plan, but then we aren't creating a plan for how to transition the North Sea to offshore wind and a bunch of other things that we could be doing at Grangemouth refinery. So I'd just like us to think we actually need to do trade union and politics differently, and I think that's a big part of this.
Well, I mean, crikey, if I thought that you were being a bit too long-termist for our purposes this morning in the context of actually extracting gas, then changing the entire nature of the discourse around trade unions and politics in this country is an even bigger mountain to climb. But I think you're probably right. I do increasingly think that it's kind of what Andy Burnham brought in, a sense that it doesn't have to be done like that, just because that's how it's always been done. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? That we're trying to just pin down what Burnhamism was, if there was such a thing. And Stockport, oddly, being a wonderful example of how, yes, you can actually regenerate a town centre, for example. You don't have to sit with managed decline or accept the inevitability of downward momentum. And he's bringing it to other areas as well. But on this one, he's in danger of looking like a man trying to have his cake and eat it, polishing his environmental credentials while opening a fossil fuel resource, opening a gas field in the North Sea. I don't know. We'll see.